Alright, listen up. I need you to sit down and shut your mouth for a second, because this isn't going to be some sugar-coated pep talk or one of those motivational speeches where everything ends with a neat little bow. No, what I'm about to say is rawugly evening. It's not going to sit well with you. But that's the point. You don't want comfort right now. You need clarity. And clarity hurts. It cuts deep like a jagged blade, slicing through all the lies you've been telling yourself, all the excuses you've made for them, all the ways you've convinced yourself that staying was worth it. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Let me break it down for you. Life isn't fair. Never has been, never will be. People lie, they cheat, they manipulate. They take and take until there's nothing left of you but an empty shell, hollowed out version of who you used to be. And then they leave. Just like that. No explanation, no apology, no backward glance. Because why would they care? To them, you were just another stepping stone on their way to something better. Another pawn in their game. Another victim of their selfishness. You know what the worst part is? You let them. You stood there, bleeding out emotionally, while they drained every ounce of life from you. You gave them pieces of yourself, your time, your energy, your love, and they threw it all away like trash, like it meant nothing. And maybe to them it didn't, but to you, it meant everything. That's the tragedy of it all. You poured your soul into someone who couldn't even bother to pick up the pieces when they shattered you. But here's the thing. It's not too late. Not yet. There's still time to reclaim what your stole, take back the power they stole from you, piece by broken piece. How do you do that? By walking away quietly, without a word. Let your absence speak louder than any scream ever could. Trust me, they'll notice. Oh, they'll notice when you're gone. When the silence you leave behind starts creeping into their thoughts, gnawing at their conscience, eating away at their carefully constructed facade, they'll feel it, the void you left behind, and they won't know how to deal with it. Because here's the secret they don't want you to know. People only realize what they had when it's already gone. They'll sit there staring at the space you used to occupy, wondering how it all fell apart, wondering why they didn't see it coming, wondering if they could have done something differently. But guess what? It doesn't matter anymore. What's done is done. You're done. Done giving them chances. Done making excuses for them. Done letting them use you as a crutch for their own insecurities. From now on, it's about you. Only you. You've heard it before, haven't you? Loyalty is rare. True friends are hard to find. Blah, blah, blah. Lies. All of it. Empty platitudes. Designed to make you feel special, to keep you tethered to people who don't deserve your devotion. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying loyalty doesn't exist. It does, but it's not given freely. It's earned. And most people haven't earned shit from you. They've taken advantage of your kindness, exploited your trust, and left you holding the bag when things got tough. That's not loyalty. That's parasitism. Plain and simple. Think about it. Who stuck around when the chips were down? Who showed up when the world turned its back on you? Who stood by your side when everyone else ran for the hills? If you're struggling to come up with names, congratulations, you've just uncovered the truth. The people you thought were loyal, they weren't. They were actors playing a role, putting on a performance for an audience of one. You. And now the curtain has fallen and you're left staring at the stage, wondering where everyone went. Here's the kicker. Loyalty isn't supposed to be conditional. It's not something you hand out like candy, expecting it to be reciprocated. Real loyalty is unconditional. It's showing up even when it's inconvenient, even when it's painful, even when there's nothing in it for you. But that kind of loyalty, it's rare. So rare, in fact, that most people wouldn't recognize it if it slapped them in the face. Instead, they settle for scrap-shelf-hearted promises, lukewarm support, fleeting moments of attention, and you deserve more than scraps. You deserve someone who sees you for who you are and chooses to stay anyway. Someone who fights for you, not against you. Someone who values you, not uses you. But here's the harsh reality. Those kinds of people are few and far between. And if you're lucky enough to find one, hold on to them with both hands. Fight for them, protect them, because they're worth it. Everyone else, they're not. They're distractions, detours, dead weight dragging you down. And the sooner you cut them loose, the sooner you can start building a life that actually matters. Now, let's talk about silence. You probably think it's weak, don't you? That staying quiet means you're giving up, backing down, letting them win. Wrong. Dead wrong. Silence is powerful. It's deafening. It's the sound of realization hitting them like a freight train, leaving them breathless and scrambling for answers that don't exist. Because here's the thing about silence, it forces people to confront their own actions, their own choices, their own failures. And most people can't handle that. They'd rather fill the void with noise excuses, apologies, empty promises than face the truth staring them in the mirror. When you walk away quietly, without a word, you're sending a message louder than any argument or accusation ever could. You're saying, I'm done. You're saying, you can't hurt me anymore. You're saying, I'm free. And that terrifies them. Because they're used to controlling you, manipulating you, keeping you trapped in their web of lies. But now you've slipped through their fingers and they don't know how to react. So they panic. They call. They text. They beg for forgiveness, for closure, for another chance. But you don't give it to them because they don't deserve it. Instead, you let the silence linger. You let it wrap itself around them like a vice, tightening with every passing moment. You let it remind them of everything they lost, everything they took for granted. And slowly, painfully, they begin to understand. They begin to see you for who you really are, not the person they thought they could control, but the person who refused to be controlled. The person who chose freedom over fear, strength over submission, self-respect over self-destruction. And that's when the real pain begins for them. Not for you. For you, the pain is temporary, a necessary step on the road to healing. But for them, the pain is permanent, a constant reminder of the choice they made, the relationship they destroyed, the person they let slip through their fingers. And there's nothing they can do to fix it, nothing they can say to make it better, because you're gone and you're never coming back. Walking away isn't easy. It's messy, painful, exhausting, but it's also liberating. For the first time in what feels like forever, you're free. Free from their toxicity. Free from their manipulation. Free from their lies. And now you can focus on rebuilding yourself and rediscovering the person you were before they came along, before they convinced you that you weren't enough. Start small. Take stock of the damage they caused. Acknowledge the wounds they left behind. Face the pain head on, no matter how much it hurts. Cry if you need to. Scream if it helps. But don't wallow. Don't let yourself drown in self-pity or regret. Use the pain as fuel. Let it drive you forward, push you towards something better, something stronger, something real. Rediscover your passions. Reconnect with the things that bring you joy. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, who inspire you, who remind you of your worth. Build a support system of individuals who genuinely care about you, who value you for who you are, not what you can do for them. And most importantly, learn to value yourself. Learn to see yourself through eyes untainted by their negativity, their criticism, their abuse. You are worthy. You are strong. You are enough. It won't happen overnight. Healing takes time. Growth takes effort. But every step you take brings you closer to the person you were always meant to be. Closer to the life you deserve. And one day, when you look back on this moment, this decision to walk away, you'll realize it was the best thing you ever did, because it set you free. It gave you a second chance. It allowed you to become unstoppable. Revenge isn't about vengeance. It's not about hurting them the way they hurt you. True revenge is about thriving, about proving to yourself and to them that you didn't need them after all, that their betrayal was the catalyst for your transformation, their loss was your gain, their mistake was your opportunity. So go ahead, live your best life. Chase your dreams, pursue your passions, be happy, be successful, be everything they told you you couldn't be. And when they come crawling back, and they will, don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you falter. Don't let them think they still have power over you. Smile politely, nod dismissively, and move on, because they don't matter anymore. They're ghosts haunting your past, shadows lingering in the corners of your mind. Let them fade. Let them disappear. Let them become irrelevant. In the end, the sweetest revenge isn't about them at all. It's about you. It's about finding peace, finding purpose, finding happiness, and knowing deep down that you're better off without them, that you always were, still here, Still reading? Good. It means you're ready. Ready to let go. Ready to move on. Ready to become unstoppable. So take a deep breath. Stand tall. Look in the mirror and remind yourself of who you are, of who you're capable of becoming. And then walk away, quietly, confidently, without looking back, because the future is waiting for you, and it's brighter than you ever imagined. So, you've done it. You walked away quietly, without a word, just like I told you to. Good for you. Don't kid yourself into thinking the hard part is over. Oh no, this is where the real work begins. Walking away isn't some magical cure, all that instantly fixes everything. It's just the first step in a long, grueling journey toward healing and self-discovery. And trust me, the road ahead, it's not going to be easy. In fact, it's probably going to feel like you're climbing a mountain with no summit in sight. But here's the thing. Every step you take brings you closer to the person you were always meant to be. Every ounce of pain you endure carves out space for strength you didn't know you had. So, buckle up, kid. This is where the real fight starts. At first, the silence will feel suffocating. You'll wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, wondering if you made the right choice. You'll replay every conversation, every argument, every moment you shared with them, searching for answers that don't exist. Was it really their fault? Could you have done something differently? Did you push too hard or not enough? These questions will haunt you, gnawing at your mind like termites eating away at the foundation of a house. But here's the truth they don't tell you. There are no answers. Not the kind you're looking for anyway. The only answer that matters is the one you already know deep down they weren't worth it. They never were. And yet, despite knowing this, despite telling yourself over and over again that you did the right thing, the doubt will creep in. It's sneaky like that, slipping through the cracks in your resolve, planting seeds of insecurity that grow faster than weeds. You'll start second-guessing yourself, questioning whether you were too harsh, too unforgiving, too quick to give up. Maybe they were trying. Maybe they did care. Maybe if you just stayed a little longer, given them one more chance, things would have been different. Stop. Right there. That's the poison talking, the same poison they fed you when they were still around, the same poison that kept you tethered to them for far too long. Don't drink it. Don't let it seep into your veins and cloud your judgment. Because here's the cold, hard reality. People don't change unless they want to, and most of the time, they don't. They'll say all the right words, make all the right promises, but actions speak louder than any apology ever could. And their actions spoke volumes. They told you everything you needed to know about who they really are and who they aren't. But even knowing all this, even understanding it on a rational level, doesn't mean the emotional scars will magically disappear overnight. Healing isn't linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and often feels like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. Some days you'll feel invincible, like you can conquer the world without breaking a sweat. Other days, you'll feel like crawling under the covers and never coming out. Both are normal. Both are part of the process. The key is to keep moving forward, no matter how slow or painful the progress may seem. One of the hardest parts about walking away is the loneliness. Sure, you knew it was coming, it's inevitable when you cut someone out of your life, but knowing it intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two very different things. There's a difference between expecting an empty room and actually standing in one, surrounded by echoes of what used to be. At first, the silence will feel unbearable. It'll press down on you like a weight, making it hard to breathe, hard to think, hard to function. You'll miss the noise, the fights, the laughter, the late-night conversation 7 if they were toxic. Because as much as those moments hurt, they were also familiar. They were comfortable in a twisted sort of way, like an old sweater full of holes that you refuse to throw away because it reminds you of home. But here's the thing about familiarity. It's not the same as happiness. Just because something feels safe doesn't mean it's good for you. And just because something hurts doesn't mean it's worth holding on to. The loneliness you feel now, it's temporary. It's a necessary phase in the healing process, a purging of sorts of detox for your soul. Think of it like cleaning out a wound. At first, it stings, it burns, it feels like it might kill you. But eventually, the infection clears and the skin begins to heal. The same goes for your heart. The loneliness will fade bit by bit until one day you wake up and realize you haven't thought about them in hours or maybe even days. Until then, though, you'll have to learn how to sit with the emptiness, to face it head on instead of running from it. Because running won't help. Trust me, I've tried. You can distract yourself with work, friends, hobbies, anything to fill the void they left behind. But none of it works, not really. The emptiness doesn't go away. It just hides, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when it does, it hits harder than before. So instead of avoiding it, lean into it. Let yourself feel it fully, completely, without reservation. Cry if you need to. Scream if it helps. Write it down, paint it, sing it, whatever it takes to release the pain. Bottling it up will only make it worse. And while you're doing all this, remember, loneliness isn't the enemy. It's a teacher. It forces you to confront parts of yourself you've been ignoring, parts you've buried so deep you forgot they existed. It pushes you to rediscover who you are outside of the relationship, outside of the role you played for them. Who are you when no one's watching? What do you love? What makes you happy? What sets your soul on fire? These are the questions you need to ask yourself now, not because you owe anyone answers, but because you owe yourself the truth. Here's the kicker. Relationships like the one you just walked away from don't just damage your emotions, they erode your sense of self. Over time, you became so focused on pleasing them, on meeting their needs and expectations, that you lost sight of your own. You stopped asking what you wanted and started asking what they wanted. You molded yourself into whatever shape they needed you to be, sacrificing pieces of yourself along the way until there was barely anything left. Now you're left with the daunting task of putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. Fun, right? Rebuilding your identity isn't something that happens overnight. It's a slow, deliberate process zone that requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to embrace vulnerability. Start small. Take stock of the things you used to love before they came along. What hobbies did you abandon? What dreams did you put on hold? What passions did you suppress because they didn't align with their vision of who you should be? Whatever it is, pick it back up, dust it off, make it yours again. If you're struggling to remember who you were before them, don't panic. It's okay. You're not supposed to have all the answers right away. Sometimes, rebuilding means starting from scratch, creating a new version of yourself that's stronger, wiser, and more resilient than the last. And that's okay too. Growth isn't about returning to who you were. It's about becoming who you're meant to be. So experiment, try new things, push yourself out of your comfort zone, rediscover what lights you up inside and chase it with everything you've got. But here's the catch. Rebuilding your identity isn't just about rediscovering your passions. It's also about setting boundaries. Boundaries are the foundation of self-respect, the invisible lines that protect your peace and preserve your sanity. Without them, you leave yourself vulnerable to the same patterns of toxicity that brought you here in the first place. So draw those lines in the sand, loud and clear. Decide what you will and won't tolerate moving forward, and stick to it. No exceptions, no excuses. If someone can't respect your boundaries, they don't deserve a place in your life, period. Now, let's talk about vulnerability. I know it's not exactly the sexiest topic. Most people associate vulnerability with weakness, with exposure, with opening yourself up to pain. And yeah, sure, it can feel that way sometimes. But here's the thing. Vulnerability isn't weak. It's brave. It's raw. It's real. It's the act of showing up as your authentic self, flaws and all, and daring the world to accept you or not. And guess what? When you stop hiding, when you stop pretending to be someone you're not, something incredible happens. You become unstoppable. Vulnerability is scary, especially after everything you've been through. Opening yourself up to the possibility of rejection, of judgment, of failure, it's terrifying. But it's also liberating, because the truth is, you can't control how other people react to you. You can't force them to love you, to appreciate you, to see your worth. All you can do is show up, be honest, and trust that the right people will stay. And the wrong ones, well, they'll leave. And that's okay. Better than okay, actually. Because every person who walks out of your life creates space for someone who truly belongs. The key to embracing vulnerability is learning to separate your self-worth from external validation. For so long, you tied your value to how much they loved you, how much they needed you, how much they praised you. But your worth isn't determined by anyone else's opinion of you. It's inherent. It's unshakable. It's yours alone. So stop seeking approval from people who don't matter. Stop chasing validation from sources that drain you instead of filling you up. Start looking inward to the quiet voice inside that knows you're enough just as you are. Listen to it, trust it, believe it. By now, you're probably starting to notice a shift. The weight that once crushed you is lifting, slowly but surely. The silence that once felt deafening is beginning to feel peaceful. The emptiness that once terrified you is transforming into possibility. And you're changing too. You're stronger, braver, more confident. You're learning to stand on your own 2 feet, to carry the load without crumbling under its weight. And damn, doesn't it feel good? Freedom isn't something you're given. It's something you claim. It's the result of countless tiny victories, of choosing yourself over and over again, even when it feels impossible. It's waking up each morning and deciding that today you're going to live for you, not for them, not for anyone else. It's saying no to things that don't serve you and yes to things that bring you joy. It's owning your story, scars and all, and refusing to let anyone rewrite it for you. And here's the best part. Freedom is contagious. Once you taste it, once you experience the sheer exhilaration of living life on your own terms, you'll never settle for anything less. You'll attract people who respect you, who value you, who lift you up instead of tearing you down. You'll build relationships based on mutual trust and admiration, not manipulation and control. And you'll finally understand what it means to truly belong to yourself. So keep going, kid. Keep fighting. Keep walking away from anything that tries to hold you back. Because the farther you get from them, the closer you get to the life you deserve. A life filled with purpose, passion, and peace. A life where you're the hero of your own story, not the victim of someone else's. And when you look back on this moment years from now, you'll smile at it. Because it was easy, but because it was worth it. You've walked away. You faced the loneliness, rebuilt your identity, and embraced vulnerability. But let's not kid ourselves, this isn't the end of the story. Oh no, far from it. Walking away may have been the hardest decision you've ever made. But living with the aftermath, that's where the real test begins. Because here's the thing about absence. It doesn't just haunt them, it haunts you too. The silence you left behind isn't just a void for them to fill. It's also a mirror reflecting everything you've lost, everything you've sacrificed, everything you're still trying to understand. At first, the echoes will feel unbearable. Every quiet moment will remind you of what once was the laughter, The fights, the stolen glances that felt like promises. You'll hear their voice in your head, see their face in every crowd, feel their presence in every empty room. It's maddening, really. Like a ghost lingering in the corners of your mind, refusing to leave even though you've already said goodbye. And the worst part? There's nothing you can do to make it stop. No amount of distraction, no new hobby or relationship can silence the memories that refuse to fade. But here's the kicker. Those echoes aren't just reminders of what you've lost. They're also proof of how much you gave. They're evidence of the love you poured into someone who didn't deserve it. The loyalty you offered to someone who couldn't appreciate it. The strength you showed even when they tried to break you. Those echoes are painful, yes, but they're also powerful. They're a testament to your resilience, your capacity to care deeply even when it hurt, your willingness to risk everything for something you believed in. And that's worth holding on to even if it hurts. Now, let's talk about regret. Not their so-no, we'll get to that later, but yours. Because as much as you want to believe you've moved on, as much as you tell yourself you've made the right choice, there's still a part of you that wonders. What if you'd stayed just a little longer? What if you'd tried harder, fought harder, loved harder? What if you were the problem, the reason things fell apart? Stop, right there. That's the poison talking again, the same poison they fed you when they were still around, the same poison that kept you tethered to them for far too long. Don't drink it. Don't let it seep into your veins and cloud your judgment. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. Regret is a liar. It twists facts, distorts reality, and convinces you that staying would have fixed everything. But staying wouldn't have fixed anything. If anything, it would have broken you further, chipped away at the pieces of yourself you're still trying to reclaim. Regret thrives on what ifs and maybes, on questions that have no answers and scenarios that never existed. It keeps you stuck in the past, replaying moments you can't change and imagining futures that will never come true. But here's the thing about regret. It's optional. You don't have to carry it. You don't have to let it weigh you down. Instead, you can choose to focus on the present, on the life you're building without them, on the person you're becoming because offend, despite everything they put you through. And here's the best part. Every time you resist the pull of regret, every time you refuse to dwell on what could have been, you take back a piece of your power. You remind yourself that you're not defined by the choices you made or the mistakes you think you committed. You're defined by the lessons you learned, the growth you experienced, the strength you discovered in the process. So let go of the regret. Let it dissolve into the silence you left behind. Trust me, you'll be better off without it. Ah, but what about their regret? Oh, it's coming. It always does. At first, they'll try to convince themselves that they're fine without you, that they didn't need you anyway, that your absence is barely noticeable. But deep down, they know the truth. Deep down, they feel the weight of what they've lost. and slowly, painfully, it starts to eat away at them. It begins with small things, the way their phone feels heavier in their hand, when your name doesn't light up the screen, the way their apartment seems quieter without your laugh echoing through the walls, the way their bed feels colder without your warmth beside them. These little reminders creep up on them, sneaking into their thoughts when they least expect it, forcing them to confront the reality they tried so hard to ignore. They miss you. Not just the idea of you, not just the convenience of having you around, but you, the real you. The person who gave them everything and asked for nothing in return. But here's the cruel irony of it all. They only realize your worth now that you're gone. Now that they can't reach you, can't get you back, can't undo the damage they caused. And that realization, it's devastating. It hits them like a punch to the gut, leaving them breathless, scrambling for answers that don't exist. They'll start questioning everything, their actions, their choices, their treatment of you. They'll wonder if they could have done something differently, if they could have been better, if they could have saved you from walking away. But guess what? It's too late. You're gone. And there's nothing they can do to change that. The beauty of their regret lies in its permanence. Unlike guilt, which fades with time, regret lingers. It festers. It grows. It becomes a constant companion, whispering in their ear every time they pass a place you used to frequent, every time they hear a song you loved, every time they catch a glimpse of someone who reminds them of you. It's relentless, unforgiving, and entirely self-inflicted. Because here's the truth they'll never admit. They had their chance. They had countless chances to treat you right, to value you, to show you the love and respect you deserved. But they didn't. And now they're paying a price. By now, you've probably realized something important. The silence you left behind isn't just for them, it's for you too. It's the space you need to heal, to grow, to rediscover who you are outside of the relationship, outside of the role you played for them. It's the emptiness where you can finally start to rebuild yourself, piece by piece, stronger than before.